You're
Yeah.
you're the representative now of sex,
Yep.
Yep.
and sex is not just physical.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
80% psychological, 20% physical. So, but people,
80%.
Okay. You're listening to Spicy Bananas podcast where nothing's off limits and everything's up for honest, awkward, and surprisingly healing conversations, B2.
Excellent. Looking forward to this one. We're your hosts. That's B1 and I'm B2, two mates who've seen what happens when people avoid the real stuff. Today's episode is part psychology, part bedroom truth, and all the heart. So, on me again, sorry. Alrighty. I know. Today's guest is Jamie Hughes. Welcome, Jamie. A mental health advocate, certified life coach, and trauma expert with a master's in psychology and years of experience in advocacy, forensic psychology, and therapeutic writing. He's here to help us connect the dots between childhood wounds and adult intimacy without the fluff, fear, or judgment. So, if you've ever asked, why am I like this in relationships? You're not alone, and we're going to want to hear and listen in. Alrighty. So, look, Jamie, I've got a lot. So, Jamie, what's harder, breaking down trauma research or explaining to someone that their sex drive just isn't about sex?
oh, that's a good question. The trauma research is interesting because um, I think we have a lot of historical influence that
Mm-hmm.
we're still trying to overcome. And even when we see, on paper, trauma research, it still, we have to find a way to apply it and explain it, like you said. So connecting those dots between the two in a way that's effective and beneficial for people can be
Mm-hmm.
difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
We're still stuck in the conversation at some points when
Mm.
it comes to sex and trauma, personality, all those issues.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
okay.
Well, what made you want to turn trauma into transformation, not just for yourself, but for others also?
Oh, well, so myself, having some childhood trauma growing up, my mother died when I was very young, I was 8.
Mm.
And then I lived with my father after that for the first time. And there was a lot of psychological abuse. And so I grew up with depression, and it
Mm-hmm.
was untreated. I didn't even begin to get help until probably my mid-20s.
Yeah,
So
right.
there was, and especially if we're talking about, sexuality as a teenager growing up and having just, oh gosh, like roller coaster of emotions and biological or physiological responses, all of
Yep.
that, everything that goes on. And nothing clicked, nothing worked well or the way it should. And so, by the time I actually thankfully made it to my 20s, and started kind of getting some help, I not only gravitated towards studying psychology for myself, but I'd also seen others and knew that others, had problems, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
depression or other mental health issues. And so the more I learned, the more I wanted to help others.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of normal that a lot of times when you see someone that is very compassionate and very helpful, it's probably because they've experienced something themselves and they know
Yeah.
what it feels like,
Mm.
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, I kind of knew, knowing what it felt like, I wanted to try to alleviate that for some other people and just broaden that as best I could. And of course, it took, many, many turns and twists over my journey and growth and healing over the years to make it to, the point where I'm at now, where I do kind of have a little better of a platform and a little better of an opportunity through writing and coaching and speaking to be able to, to help people in lots of areas, And this is one, honestly, I was happy to read about your guys' podcast and what you
Hmm.
talk about and stuff because it's not one that we talk about a lot. And so
No,
it is a good opportunity.
it's a, I don't,
Well, that's a thing though. Sorry,
you're
BT.
right.
I'll cut you off.
It's okay.
But that's exactly it, is that it's something we shelter in,
Mm.
right? Because is it one, embarrassment? We don't want to speak about our childhood trauma, or
But they're happy to go into an adult store and speak to a worker like us
yeah,
that haven't got any qualifications, but they blurt out their life, and it's like,
they need to talk.
holy crap, we haven't been trained that
Yes.
way. So that's what I want to know. How is it because we make them feel comfortable, or they just would, okay, I'm just going to tell this
It's a
person.
stranger, and
Yeah.
well, me
No,
personally,
you just have that kind of face. You know, if I ran into you on the street, I'd be like, yeah, let me tell her about my sexual
I'm going
dysfunction.
to tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you look interesting. I'm having problems getting it up in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about
well,
that?
we've got the solution for you right now.
I know,
Call
right?
us for more
We
info.
have a
Oh,
fine array of pills and devices.
We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
natural remedies. We go to that first, and yeah, well, we'll go to that first.
yeah.
But that's a thing, though. It's kind of when they come into work, and we get them crying, and
Mm.
it's so
Hmm.
hard because
Really?
some of us have
Yeah.
gone through our emotional early childhood trauma too. So it's
Yeah,
obviously putting that to the back of your head, which it kind of seeps it through to the front, does it not? When they talk to
uh-huh.
us and we go, "Oh, I'm reliving that a bit myself," and
Yeah,
you kind of guide them the way you would guide yourself. So
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so the reason is probably both of what you mentioned. For one, when we see certain associations, it
Hmm.
kind of, I guess, unlocks that in the brain in terms of the conscious part. It's already there in the subconscious.
Hmm.
So for your case and point is you're in an adult store, so people come in and it's okay, well, this is the subject. So now you're kind of seen as the experts in this field, no matter
Yeah.
how long you've been there.
Okay.
For that person,
Yeah.
you're the representative now of sex.
Yep.
Yep.
And sex is not just physical.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's 80% psychological, 20% physical. So,
So true.
and but
80%.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, but we don't talk about it that way and we don't think about it that way. So
No.
most people, unless you've kind of studied it or listened to someone describe it or talk about it, you don't think of it that way. So you tend to only think of it in terms of the physical or maybe the relationship.
Mm.
But we don't often think of the, the psychological part. And so when that's kind of unlocked, that it's sort of, oh, well, this is the representative of this field that I can talk to, those connections, subconscious connections, which might be from trauma, start coming out. They don't even
Mm.
realize that's what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So it can be, I can imagine that would be very interesting. When you just have people are crying in the shop,
Yeah.
my psychology brain now is like, ooh, 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 ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's
And
interesting. Yeah.
no device, no cream, no gel, this is male or female, is going to help them if they can't, for instance, if a woman can't have an orgasm or a man
Hmm.
can't get the erection,
Yeah.
nothing is going to work if this is switched off.
Yeah. We won't.
Yep.
We're very honest in the passion that we have
Hmm.
for the industry. And if you delve in enough without trying to delve in unprofessionally, as I kind of say, because we're not to your caliber and far from it,
Mm.
but trying to sort of then we trying to get that touch and feel and talk and all the little things that we've learnt, I guess, over the way to make a difference before we go, you need to buy this, you need to spend
Yeah.
100, 200, 300, $1,000. We won't do that. Because then we will delve into, have you both seen a counselor
Mhm.
or like, have you
Right.
done any therapy? Have you?
That's the big one that we do suggest. Have you seen a
Basically.
therapist or your doctor, your GP, like that? Of course, we've got to say
Anything,
that.
yeah. If it's erectile dysfunction or
Yep.
which is totally normal, it's we make sure
Yeah.
and ground those like sort of boundaries first because we
Yeah.
do want you to come back and we do want to see a solution to you also.
Mhm.
So very passionate.
We
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
passionate.
And in your situation, sort of just listening. You don't have to give any kind of professional advice. You don't have to do any kind of diagnosis, nothing like that. Just listening. And then just, very matter of factly be like, yeah, every single human being on earth has a psychological background to sex, not just a physical. So, like you mentioned, yeah, if this is something you've experienced before and it's bothering you, go talk to the therapist or the doctor because it's common.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it is. People need to know
Yeah.
that one, they're not alone.
Yeah,
It is
correct.
Yeah.
very common, extremely
Yeah.
common. I honestly don't think if everyone was honest, I don't think there's any one human being that's never had any kind of sexual problem.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's ongoing, then, obviously there's something else behind it.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I think it's very common for, especially you're with your partner and on a Tuesday night, you've had a bad day. It doesn't have to be a mental health disorder. You just have
Yeah.
a bad day.
Yeah.
They're wanting to get with it. They're wanting to get it on, and you don't. You're just like, I'm tired. I'm pissed
Yeah.
off. I'm
Switched
sad.
off.
Done.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not for me today.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with the state of the relationship or
Yeah.
your,
Yep.
bodily function. It just, you're
And
not in
that's
it.
it. Yeah. People
And
need
when
to
it comes
understand.
to, yeah, and when it comes to, a mental health issue, now you've got things running behind the scenes in the programming that are affecting you that you don't even realize are having an effect on that part of your life.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. So true. Um, you're ready for this one. No, you're ready
I'm
for this one.
ready.
If
Hit,
your
hit me.
therapeutic style were an adult store item product, and you need a big drink, what would it be? So have you been in an adult store?
Yeah, I've been in a few. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if your
If
therapeutic style was one,
was an item in the adult store.
Yep. Any sort of product.
it's easy for us because we
I
work there
know.
every day, right?
Yeah, I know, right? That's
Yeah,
a tricky question. I'm
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
think. I'm like,
Yes and
hmm.
no. We rattle our
Well,
brain and go, gosh.
I'm definitely not the like, super direct. So it's definitely not like a dildo where you just ram it in,
No, no.
super
With a
direct.
big handle on
Yeah,
it. No.
I love that.
Mine would probably be like more like a porn flick that starts off, comforting and reassuring, but then once you get to a certain point, then it flips over to the freaky side.
Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
love
So
that. I
Nice.
love
that would
that.
probably be, yeah,
I
Okay.
love that.
yeah,
So love that. And we've got a lot in our store. Love
I
that.
know.
We still sell so many too.
I know, go figure.
Well, yeah, each to their own. All right. So what's the biggest aha that you've seen people have when they connect childhood trauma to intimacy issues? When they go,
Oh,
ah,
yes. Uh-huh. So, interestingly enough, and these are some generalizations, but they apply. With men, it's usually sexual dysfunction, physical sexual dysfunction that
Mm-hmm.
they don't realize is tied to an emotional issue.
mhm,
And women, it's usually with the relationship part. So
mhm.
more of the who is my partner? Why is my partner? Why am I picking this person? Those two things.
Love that.
Um, One of the biggest, I was going to say the easiest, but I don't know if that's really correct. But I guess one of the most blatant ones is when you talk about attachment style.
Yep.
So there's attachment theory in psychology that says, however, you were treated as a young child, like baby and infant, you develop an attachment style. So typically you have your mother, father, whoever's the caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
you get hurt, they respond to you in a certain way, but at the same time, you want them, say, "Oh, I want my mom." The baby or toddler starts crying, and the mom, comforts them, says, "I'm right here," but they don't necessarily hover, but they give a reassurance, and then they go back to whatever they were doing. It starts building resilience. It starts building a healthy attachment. So attachment theory says that there's a dysfunction there somewhere in that raising that child. And it could be neglect, abuse. It could be they're smothered. It could be they were left alone, all these things.
Mm.
And that you grow up. And so as you develop this attachment style as a child, when you grow up into adulthood, that dictates your relationships, your romantic relationships, most of all, but also friendships. Um, and there's usually a couple of types. There's avoidant and anxious attachment style.
Mm-hmm.
And anxious attachment style tends to be the smotherer. They have a deep-seated fear that they're going to be abandoned and not loved for who they are, so they attach.
Yep.
They're anxious. I want to do everything I can for you to make you love me. And if you don't even respond to my text within 30 seconds, I start freaking out and asking you,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong? What's wrong? What's the problem? Is there a problem or is everything okay? That's that anxious. And the avoidant is somewhat the opposite, but kind of the same motivation. They also have a deep-seated fear of being abandoned, but theirs is more of a independent uh, mindset. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, they fear losing their independence. So when they get in a relationship, if the person is smothering and stuff, they start backtracking. They start, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. This is too much. This is too much. These are the people in a relationship that when there's a problem, they don't want to talk about it. They just want space.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I just need some space. That's the avoidant.
Mm.
So when
Gosh,
people
it's ticking
kind
all
of
these
figure
boxes.
out, yeah,
All
yeah,
You
these.
see
when
my
people,
eyes look to the right constantly going, he's going to pick up on this shortly, that I'm going, oh,
I'm like,
right.
was the serial data for
Sorry.
years, and this is just like, I'm
mm,
like, yep, that goes with that one. Yep, that goes
Yeah.
with that one. Wow. Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, right. So that's that aha when a person starts oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's kind of how I am. Or, oh, yeah, that's how my husband or wife is, or boyfriend or girl. That's how they are. Oh, wait a minute. Now there's a connection to
Yeah.
intimacy.
Mhm.
And when you get into intimacy, now you got several different patterns
Mm.
that typically appear with these two different attachment styles. For instance, the avoidant is usually very quick to drop boundaries. And usually they don't really have any boundaries if they feel secure in themselves. There is no deep, vulnerable
Mm.
attachment. They fear vulnerability.
Yep.
So they meet someone, oh, I like you. Let's go hop in the sack. Let's get it on. It's very quick. There's no attachment there for
Mm.
them to fear. So they're
Yep.
very open. And I'm not saying that everybody that's avoidant is, loosey-goosey, whatever.
Yep.
It's not that. It's just their fear is vulnerability. So if there is no vulnerability, they don't have any fears.
Mm.
So the sex is bam, it's
Yeah.
awesome for the
Yeah.
first 6 months,
Mhm.
maybe a year. But as soon as they start to feel that vulnerability, like, oh, wait a minute, this is now real.
Yep.
I'm going to have to open up emotionally, not just physically, and not just enjoying the good time, not just the honeymoon
Yep.
phase.
Yep.
Yeah.
The sex goes, "Mm."
Yeah.
And it's not
Right.
because they've lost attraction, so to speak. It's just now that subconscious narrative is starting to play. Oh, this
Yeah.
person's going to have to find out who you really are, and what you're really like. You're going to be vulnerable and you're going to get left.
Yeah.
So they start detaching.
Yep.
The anxious, again, is sort of the opposite in this regard. The anxious might be a little leery at first because there is no emotional connection. And so they're kind of, I don't know, um, this person might think I'm bad in bed, so I don't want to jump right into this. But as it kind of goes on, the connection, if there's a connection, if they feel a connection there, it sort of gets better. So the sex typically kind of goes this direction.
Yeah, right.
But it's more likely to hit hiccups.
Yeah.
So they start down in this relationship, and now they're starting to get connected, and they're very fine with being vulnerable. They're typically like, yeah, let's talk about this situation. We had an argument. Let's talk about it like right now. And so they're okay with sharing their feelings, but they're also more likely to, um, for those fears, those deep-seated fears to come out sooner and come out in behavior, which includes having sex.
Yeah.
So they may, once they feel the attachment, now they're again sort of the same. It's funny because they both have this fear of being abandoned. It just plays out differently.
Different
So that
ways.
anxious person might be like, it's been 36 hours since we had sex. What's wrong? Or
Yeah.
um, yeah, man, I saw she laughed at a coworker's joke. I wonder if they're fucking. I wonder if they're having an affair. Which of course you're done psychologically, and so you're not going to perform,
Yeah.
or you're not going to be able to have an orgasm, or you're going to start uh, falling out of the fun part of having sex.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, wow, that's something to think about, and that's something to, not that we bring it up at work, but
No, it just gives us little tips to help us cope, I guess, with different scenarios that we have.
understand people more. I guess.
Yeah.
When say women or men say this, and we sort of understand, therefore we wouldn't delve into it.
No.
We know which sort of way to roll, throw them, push them.
Yeah.
Push.
Push. Great. Well, into a gondola.
Well, it could be fetish, so it could be like bondage, like
That too. Yeah. All right. How does childhood trauma shape the way we attach to people later in life, especially when it comes to sex and emotional intimacy?
Yeah, so in addition to that attachment theory and those two attachment styles, childhood trauma brings definitely one thing with it, and that is your self-perception, and which is almost always negative in some way. And like, most other issues can kind of be on a spectrum in the sense it might be a little, might be a lot. And that definitely plays out in, relationships in terms of what you gravitate towards. And here's a very eye-opening statistic, and it's not a pleasant one, and it kind of hurts when you think about it, but it's good to know it. A person that has been through some type of abuse is, 4 to 10 times more likely to re-experience that type of abuse. So the brain is very interesting.
Yeah.
The subconscious brain really only has two programmings, two goals in mind. One is survival, and the other is comfort.
Okay.
So your subconscious brain does not like new things. It doesn't like the unknown. So your subconscious will drive you to stay in the known versus venturing into the unknown.
Yeah.
Just for that reason. And you don't even realize it. Even most of our conscious choices are driven by the subconscious. We think they're conscious, but so for instance, picking out something to wear at a store. You're in the store shopping and you're looking for things. In the back of your mind, your brain is kind of replaying, well, this person likes that. This person doesn't like that. The last time I wore this, I got this reaction, which I liked. So I'm gravitating towards that. You
Mm.
know, there's all these things going on.
Mm.
And with the trauma, childhood trauma, so again, it's a tough subject, but it's real. If there was sexual abuse as a child, you're 10 times more likely to get into a situation or to be in a situation as you get older that also involves some sort of sexual dysfunction.
Mm.
Mm.
If you were physically abused, you're more likely to get into an abusive relationship. And it's so weird because the brain sort of picks out these things, these cues, social cues, and even physical stimuli without us even realizing it.
Mm.
So myself, for instance, so I mentioned that um, I had went through trauma as a child growing up, especially the psychological abuse from my father.
Yep.
My mother died when I was 8.
Mhm.
So the rest of the time growing up as a child and as a teenager, I had no mother to give me care and compassion, but I
Mm.
had a very, harsh father. So I recognized later in life, sometimes too late, but it was a learning process.
Yep.
But there were times in my life where I could look at the partners I was with and was like, wait a minute, this person, I'm gravitating towards physically someone that looks like my mother did,
Mm.
but behaviorally, I'm gravitating towards people that are very direct and harsh.
Yep.
Even at the onset, though, it appears as a strength, you
Yeah.
know, a person that's just more direct and just, oh, da 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 da,
Mm.
and I'm grabbing towards it. But by the time the newness wears off, I was like, yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like this. And, again, as the more I grew and healed, I was able to recognize, oh, I see what's going on
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I used to ditto. There's so many
Hmm.
that don't.
Keep
Or
following the
that
same
connect.
patterns. Same
Yeah.
pattern, same pattern,
Yes,
same
Yeah.
pattern.
exactly. I always tell people, become a student of yourself. This
Mm.
is the way that you're going to grow.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with, a mental health an official diagnosis or not, whether you just have something going on in your life, even if your life is like completely 100% normal in your terms of normal, still become a student of yourself. And I would probably say that most people that have, or at least appear to have a more balanced life, they've done this even if that's not what they call it.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
become a student of, well, wait a minute, when I make this choice, this is the consequence.
Yeah.
And if I don't want that consequence, let me make another choice.
Yeah.
The problem is when you've got that programming going on subconsciously and you can't consciously make another choice, that's when you need to go through the work. That's when you need to get some help and work through those issues so that you can move towards more balance
Yeah.
and you'll
Definitely.
have
Makes
better
sense.
relationships. You'll
Yeah.
have, more growth and well-being.
So,
Yeah.
what sort of help do you recommend if they're having those doubts in their head? Where should they probably first start out? Because sometimes when you offer or say a friend or family member or something that is close to you, maybe you do need to see a whatnot, whoever, and they go, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. So, how do you subtly say that to them and get them to like forth with being that sort of more positive and I don't know, direct person? Is that the word? No, it's the words have disappeared from me, but where would you push them ideally to?
So, if you're going to recommend that someone seek treatment, which you should,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
two things to consider. one, make it in the form of a question instead of you should do this.
Mm-hmm.
Say, have you thought about seeing a therapist? Have you thought about seeing a counselor? And they may be like, no, I don't need that. Okay, good. The second thing is just make the suggestion and let it go. It will sit in
Okay.
their brain. It will sit
Yeah.
in their brain.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince them. You can't convince them.
Yeah.
No,
You
but
cannot convince. Think of how many people that have had relatives that had addictions and substance use disorders, and they've tried for damn 20 years to get them to get help and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You can't make another person,
no.
but you can suggest it, and I guarantee you they've already thought about it. So just planting those seeds, it
Exactly.
will stay in their
Yeah.
brain, and again, it normalizes it. Just
Yeah.
talking about it, be like, and you can say, "Oh yeah, I heard this on a podcast that this guy was talking about how childhood trauma actually affects our sex lives and our relationships."
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if have you thought about talking with someone? It might
Yeah.
help,
That's the
and
thing.
just leave it.
Not many people at all would think about their sexual life right now being an issue to looking back to their childhood trauma.
No.
So this
Mhm.
is perfect for
Yeah.
people to be listening to straight off the bat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
So what are some signs someone is dealing with an avoidant or anxious attachment style, and how does that show up in bed?
So repetitive behavior
Mm-hmm.
is the first thing.
Yep.
Um, not being in control of your emotions.
Mm.
And I don't mean like, oh gosh, I, so I've been rewatching The Walking Dead, the
Okay.
past month or so,
yeah.
partially because the shows I was watching kind of came to an end. I didn't have anything new to watch. So I was like, oh yeah, I love that show. I'm going to rewatch it. And a few nights ago, I think it was last week, I got to the part. If you haven't seen Walking Dead, it's too bad. I'm going to spoil it. But I got to the part where Carl dies. I cried. I was like, damn, this is probably the third time I've seen this, and it's still touching. I loved Carl. That was my favorite character. And plus, no lie, my son, when he was maybe 16, 15 or 16, maybe it was 15. Anyways, he dressed up as Carl for Halloween one time.
Oh gosh.
He had the black wig, long hair, the cowboy hat, everything. Spitting image. And I have never been able to shake that. Now, every
Oh
time I see
no.
Carl on The Walking Dead, I see my son. So here's Carl dying. I'm like, oh my God, that's my son.
Crying. Yeah, that's why you're crying. Yeah.
So it's not that you can't have normal emotions.
Mm.
It's just if they don't fit the situation, if they're out of control, if they're repetitive, if, especially in terms of sexuality, if you have sex with someone, regardless of the physical outcome, and
Yep.
this is something that people need to understand, your
Mm.
body can do shit with or without your permission.
Yep.
Men, why do men wake up at 3 a.m. with a Woody? Their body's doing things it's not like they're sitting there thinking about, yeah, I want to have sex. They just wake up, it's there.
Yep.
Your body does things with or without you. So regardless of the outcome of the experience, if you have sex with someone and then you go home and you start crying about it, there's a problem.
Mm.
There's a problem. And
Okay.
it's not a normal emotional response.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if you've had that same response several times or different times in your life. That doesn't fit. There's an underlying issue there that you can get help with, and you don't have to go through that. Um, with men, obviously, ED. If there's
Mm-hmm.
something going on subconsciously, and men hate to talk about this. Oh my God,
Yep.
I hate to talk about it.
Yep.
It took many, 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 many years and a lot of healing and growth before I reached a point to where I was more comfortable talking about it.
Yep.
But we as men, I mean, that's a connection to who we are as a
Yeah.
human being, as a
Exactly.
person. is our sexuality. So for someone to say, yeah, I've got ED or I'm having this problem or that problem, that's taboo. We don't like to talk about it. But
Yep.
if a guy's having problems in that area, first of all, how often is it occurring? If it's a lot, in other words, it kind of keeps coming up, keeps coming up, keeps coming up. And I mean like every couple of weeks, maybe, or more than once a month, maybe. There's a good chance it's a physical issue. Could be blood pressure, could be prostate, those types of things.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
But if you find that it's a time when you're stressed, so for instance, you go to work, whatever, you have a stressful day at work, or there's just BS going on in life and you're stressed, usually you're with your partner and you lay down and you kind of relax. That once that stress level goes down, which has a lot to do with cortisol and other hormones, maybe adrenaline, once those kind of subside a little bit, your body will kick in. It'll start going back to normal, so to speak.
Yeah.
But if you're like that and it's not, then there's probably a psychological issue behind it. And it may be like, say, for instance, we talked about, the attachment styles. The anxious attachment style typically has this a fear of not being wanted. So this is called rejection sensitivity. So they're very sensitive to rejection. You make a meal for someone and you're looking at their face and they're like, they make a face. You're like, oh my God, they hate it. I screwed up. That's sensitive. So especially when it comes to sex, you have sex and like for the guy, let's say the woman doesn't have an orgasm
Yeah,
or it
right.
doesn't appear like you think it should. You may go into a spiral psychologically. Oh shit, they don't like me anymore. Or I'm not pleasing them. I'm not enough for them. I'm not good enough. They don't, they're not liking this. They're going to leave.
Where communication comes into play here. It's what we keep
Yeah.
saying.
They're thinking, what
Communicate,
did I do
people.
wrong?
Yeah.
Boy, it
Gotta
worked last
communicate.
time. What am I doing wrong now? So yeah, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. 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 If you're in a point in a relationship where it's more than just, hey, we date, we go out, we occasionally have sex because it's fun and we like each other, but it's not serious. If it's more than that, if it's in the serious stage,
Yeah.
you have to find a way to talk about these things. And they're not comfortable. No, it's not easy. Yes, it's going to be embarrassing at times. But you just have to find a book that's like one of those couples books, questions for couples, or you
Yeah.
can look them up online and
Yeah.
use that, have a game night and say, hey, we're going to make margaritas at home and order pizza and we're going to play this couples game. And
Okay.
some of the questions are going to be deep,
Back to basics,
but
playing games, getting to know each other all over again.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Reigniting.
but using these prompts in a way so you're not asking the question, somebody else is.
Yeah.
You're just kind of responding.
Yeah.
And so that's a good way to kind of broach those subjects and discuss them. But yeah, if you're having an issue with sex, no matter what it is, whether it's performance, whether it's the emotional response before or after, and that's a reoccurring issue, then yeah, it's probably tied to something much deeper that you want to get resolved. And it's just like anything else. You can heal, you can fix it,
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
grow.
Yeah.
But if you avoid it, if you just try to pretend like it doesn't exist, it's never going to get better and it's actually going to make things worse.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
manifest.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you get the help and hopefully again I say it that people listen to this podcast.
There's so much help out there these days.
Yeah.
There is a lot of
But
help
it's
out
also
there.
understanding that you need that help.
Yeah.
I think. And I think a lot of people are like, I don't need help. As we were discussing before, it's like, I don't need this, I don't need that. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's same in our industry. We don't need a toy to make our sex life better. No, but let's bring some spark and spice into it.
Try something a little bit
It
different.
doesn't
Try
have to
something
be
new.
toys.
No.
We've had this
Oh,
before.
yeah.
Yep.
But just if nothing's evolving and helping, definitely you need to seek something. So that's what
Mhm.
we're all about. So why do some people crave intimacy too fast while others push it away completely?
Yeah, I would say pretty much for some of the same reasons we've talked
Mhm.
about. There's an intimacy
Yeah.
issue that goes back to some trauma, or at least some deep self-perception. And again, these are things that are on the subconscious level, not really on the conscious level, because
Yep.
you may have a lady that gets up, you know, looks in the mirror, looks at her clothes, her makeup. She's like, oh yeah, I look gorgeous, I look great, I look fantastic. But then it keeps repeating a behavior
Mm.
of, you know, jumping into relationships or jumping into bed with people that there's not just no healthy connection, it can actually be an unhealthy situation. And so even though on the surface level, on the conscious level, there's this, oh, I'm fine, I'm great, I got all this self-esteem and I'm blah, blah, blah. Deep down, there's something, there's a negative self-perception where the person doesn't feel worthy,
Mm.
doesn't feel like they um, would be wanted or loved or desired if they had anything else other than sex to provide.
Yeah.
And which is a very, unfortunately, a very common issue.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the issue, and I want to make this clear for people, we talk about the stigma and the taboo of even talking about sex. And we have so many, and I think it's because we don't talk about it. We have so many misperceptions. Having a strong libido, wanting to have sex a lot, and having fun with it is not a problem.
Mhm.
That's not. There's nothing wrong with you. But putting yourself in situations that are harmful, not just physically, but psychologically,
Yes.
there is. There's something deeper that you know needs to be addressed. And if it were addressed, you would find so much more freedom and enjoyment, and there wouldn't be the tears afterwards. There wouldn't be the self-loathing. Um, you know, uh, I myself, I talked a little bit about my trauma affected me growing up and getting into relationships. And, I've been through some of the sexual dysfunction where I would get attached to someone and then just be fully like comfortable, 100% comfortable and open and everything. And then I see an issue and then my brain kicks in, oh, they don't like you anymore. They
Yeah.
don't, they're going to leave you. And then the next thing I know, we're trying to have sex 2 days later, and I'm just not into it. I
Yep.
just can't get into it, either physically or mentally. And it was because of that untreated and unhealed trauma.
Yep.
And the more over the years, the more healing, the more I progressed with that journey, the freer I became in things that I enjoyed, things that I was curious about,
Yep.
and even talking about those subjects, even, like sometimes at the dating stage, if I was dating someone, just be coming out and ask, curious question. So what do you like most about sex? Is there anything that, you've always thought about but been too afraid to
Mm.
discuss?
Yeah.
Um, and kind of having fun with it. And
Yeah.
you learn a lot about people, you learn a lot about yourself. And then, like I said, the more help you get, the more healing you get from an issue, the more you enjoy life
Yeah.
in relationships and sex.
So Like, speaking of addictions, there's drug and alcohol addictions. There's also sex addictions, right? Do you think sex
Yes.
addictions are attached to some sort of trauma, or they've just got a really high libido? What are your
No,
thoughts on that?
no. Research shows that a sex addiction, which, to separate from a high libido, a sex addiction is a compulsion, something that you don't really want, but you can't help but pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And that means through whatever means necessary,
Right.
putting yourself in unhealthy situations.
Yeah.
So the research shows that a addiction is a trauma response,
Yep.
and it can be a what we call a comorbid issue, and comorbid just means it goes hand in hand. It goes along with another issue.
Yep.
So for instance, if someone has PTSD, it's extremely common that they have a comorbid diagnosis of anxiety.
Right.
Some anxiety is a symptom of PTSD, but they may have, a clinical diagnosis of anxiety as well.
Okay.
So a sexual addiction then is one of those that it can be comorbid with something else, but it can just sort of be its own thing and have other symptoms with it. But
Okay.
it's definitely not the same as having a high libido.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can have a high libido and just be like, you want it all the time, and well, I would say one of the difference between having a high libido and an actual addiction is that addiction, your thoughts are, you're thinking about it all the time and
Okay.
not in a pleasurable way. You're just
Yep.
thinking about, I gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. Versus a high libido, you may not even be thinking about it all the time, but you're aroused very easily.
Okay. Yep.
It doesn't take much at all, you
Mhm.
Yep.
know. Mine's on a little bit on the higher end, and so my I'm going to get killed for this, but
I
she
was going
knows
to say
better.
personal experience.
She knows, but with my girlfriend, it can be a simple touch, it can be a simple
Yep.
look, it can be a simple phrase, and I'm like, ooh, all of a sudden my interest peaks like
Yep.
that. And it's not because I'm thinking morbidly about it 24/7,
No.
like, oh, I gotta have it, I need it, I gotta have this. But it's not that. It's just, it's there. And so it comes to the surface easily.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the difference between those two.
She brings that out of
Um,
you. You bring it out of yourself, but she helps bring that out
Yeah.
of you because of your connection.
yes. And again, I've been through years and years and years of healing so that I'm not, um, self-conscious of
Mm.
that. And I also know that, yes, there are going to be times when I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Mm.
There are going to be times where life is just lifing and I'm not going to feel that way. There's
Yeah.
going to be times where I'm having, emotional issues because of my past.
Yeah.
And just because you reach a point of healing doesn't mean all of a sudden life is perfect.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
pe
Yep.
people need to understand that no matter what stage you're at, there's always going to be something in life going on.
Yep.
Always. Internally, externally. That's just like that
Yep.
is
It is.
normal.
It is. Yeah. Thanks for really pointing that out to us too. I don't know, look, Jamie, honestly, thank you so much. It's been
You've answered
insightful.
a lot of everything that we wanted, but you've actually delved in deeper, which is what we're about, though, too. You've covered a lot of things that we can really
Helps us also understand our clientele at work.
Absolutely.
But also our listeners. I've said this now a third time.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
No. Well, are we wrapping?
Well,
So-
we'll wrap it up, but
But-
we're not.
We're not, but yeah.
We're not rappers.
Where can people, Jamie, connect with you, find your writing, or work with you further? If you can let our audience know, please.
Sure. The website is managingmentalhealth.net. So all together, no spaces or period, managingmentalhealth.net, N-E-T, and that'll take you to the page. It's got the 4 books I have published so far in the series on managing mental health,
Yep.
and those each provide a deeper understanding of specific issues and extremely very practical advice and help for managing. And the 4 so far are anxiety, clinical depression, adult ADHD, and PTSD. And I'm, working on more in that series. And also on the same page, you can see my professional bio. There's a, contact link, so you can send me an email if you want to work with coaching, or if you want to just talk about an issue, feel free to email me, and we can go from there. But
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Thank
The
you.
4 books we didn't even touch on.
No.
We
I
just.
will. I do want to throw one more thing out there though, just for people
Yep.
to kind of help, because no matter the reason, if you're not experienced in going to therapy, that can be very daunting in itself, and you don't know where to go, how to choose this person, what's the process like. Um, I would say, and especially we're talking about your your issue that you want to get more information, you want to learn more, you want help for, whether it's directly sexual in terms of performance, behavior, that type of thing,
Yep.
or whether it's emotional relationships. Um, you don't have to go to a quote sex therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's sort of become popular in the past few years. And I'm not knocking that as a profession, as a science. It's, all that. But you don't feel like you have to go to that, because a therapist that, is qualified, just a regular mental health therapist, I promise you they've studied this same issue,
Yeah.
and they
Chip away.
probably could make more connections. But at the very least, if you do want to go to a sex therapist, which is usually for couples, is probably a good start,
Yep.
Yeah.
because they're going to be open from the get-go. Right off the bat, they're
Yeah.
going to be open and say, all right, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But you can ask them, you can always ask any type of therapist before you start getting
Yeah.
down and dirty. Hey, what's your experience? What type of issues do you specialize in?
Yep.
Well
What
said.
what is your view on trauma?
Mhm.
And what is your therapy style? Are you very comforting and casual, or are you very direct? Because
Mm-hmm.
some people need both.
Mhm.
I needed, very early on, I needed the caring and comforting. If I went to someone that was very direct, it was a reminder of my father, and I
Yeah.
couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
For a long time, I thought it was just because it was male therapists. I was like, oh, I can't see a male therapist because it reminds me of my father. And then I talked to a couple of men that were therapists, and just casually, and they were just so kind-hearted and so open and just reassuring. And I was like, oh shit, it's not because it's a dude,
Yeah.
it's this communication style.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now that I've kind of grown and been a long ways on my journey, like for instance, the last time I went to a therapist for an issue or to talk about something, they were too soft. I was like,
Oh,
nah, this ain't gonna work. I need someone
yeah.
that's I can jump from 1 to 100 like now,
Yeah.
because I'd already been through the process. I'd already been
Yeah.
through a lot of healing. So don't be afraid. Ask a question, almost interview the person before you get started,
Yep.
and you will have such a better experience.
Well, that's great. Massive great
Good
tool.
advice. Definitely.
Very
Great
good tool
advice.
when you're
and
looking
tools.
for
Yeah.
what you're searching for.
Because you don't have any idea.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Not all of us do this all the time too.
No.
So, look, Jamie, thank you so much for taking the trauma to the truth massively and making space for real healing too, and giving us the information that we all need to hear.
So if this episode hit you in the right attachment style, go hit follow, drop a 5-star review, and maybe journal that hookup pattern tonight. Your inner child will thank you, as we thank you, Jamie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.